Alright, ladies and gentlemen, what our VIPs are holding represents Malaysia's commitment to the future. This is the Steel Industry Roadmap 2035.
Today, the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry will also unveil the Steel Industry Roadmap 2035, outlining the government's path to growing the iron and steel sector sustainably. So, ladies and gentlemen, the iron and steel industry has long been the backbone of ASEAN's industrialization. Steel builds homes, roads, bridges, vehicles, ships, and the machinery that powers economy. So steel is actually the foundation of our future industrial growth. Steel demand in ASEAN has grown steadily, with apparent consumption in the ASEAN 6 at 74 million tons in 2023, close to the pre-pandemic peak of 80 million tons in 2018 to 2019. But I think most of you are aware, the industry faces challenges, in fact pressing challenges. Globally, there is more than 600 million tons of excess steelmaking capacity, with much of this surplus seeking ASEAN markets. Within our region, steel demand is projected to reach 80 million tons by 2025. Yet, the situation is far from ideal. ASEAN faces oversupply in the long steel products while remaining heavily import-dependent in flat steel products. The imbalance distorts our markets and creates an excessive burden to ASEAN's steel industry. These challenges are further compounded by the introduction of new regulatory measures on decarbonization and green steel obligations, as well as unfair practices such as dumping and transshipment. The tariff burden, including the US Section 232 tariff on steel and aluminium, also have serious implications for major ASEAN producers. Steel accounts for a significant share of industrial carbon emissions, so it is our collective responsibility, both policymakers and industry players, to explore strategies to mitigate these challenges in line with our net zero strategies. But these burdens must not be shouldered by any single country. To effectively address them, countries must collaborate and curate a regional solution. So this is where the policymakers, and this conference obviously is timely, is important as the inaugural ASEAN-level platform for steel policy. Government representatives need to build a shared understanding and explore collective responses. Among the objectives of ASEAN Policymakers Conference on Steel, this is of course held in conjunction with the 2025 ASEAN Iron and Steel Forum, are to build a common understanding of the structural and environmental pressures on the industry and to explore a framework for ASEAN cooperation so we can compete fairly, transition sustainably, and build resilience together. I'm pleased to note that 2025 ASEAN Iron and Steel Forum complements this effort by bringing together industry players, technical experts, and international partners, grounding discussions in policy direction and market realities. Malaysia's appreciation goes to CRC and ASEAN colleagues for making this platform a reality. I was informed that this morning session on overcapacity, decarbonization and supply chain innovation were productive. The YB Liu himself was there and gave his views on this. And I believe these conversations must continue. To that end, let us establish this conference as a regular platform that guides ASEAN steel policy with continuity and purpose. So, distinguished guests, allow me to share Malaysia's experience. Malaysia faces a stark imbalance between supply and demand in the steel industry. Domestic projection shows upstream capacity could reach 40.8 million tons by 2030, while domestic demand is only 14.7 million tons. This gap highlights overcapacity, assets underutilized, poor return on investments, and market conditions weakening competitiveness and resilience. So sustainability is integral. Steel remains among Malaysia's most carbon-intensive industries, exposing us to regulatory market barriers and making decarbonization a necessity, both environmentally and economically. So against this backdrop, MITI formulated the Steel Industry Roadmap 2035, or SIR 2035. It provides a sequential pathway to stabilize, restructure and transform Malaysia's steel industry in line with the new Industrial Master Plan 2030, the National Energy Transition Roadmap, and our net zero aspirations by 2050.